There's a little bit of a field to the left. Trees.
So in this episode, here at the beginning, we're going to do a rope break with the Pawnee, which is 4 Bravo Yankee right in front of me. The difference between this one and the last episode was I did a rope break with the Pawnee, which has a lower horsepower rating, so we released at 300 feet above ground. With the Pawnee, or with the sorry, that was with the Husky. With the Husky, we went up and released at 300 feet above the ground. So I had a little bit more space and time to turn around and get to the runway. And I was doing it in extremely calm wind. This time I'm doing it with a more powerful tow plane, so the Pawnee 4 Bravo Yankee. And we're going to release at 200 feet because we're closer to the runway. So we don't want to be at 300 feet and then have to turn back because it would be really hard to get down to the runway because we would be so close to it. So what I'm not ready for in this one is the crosswind. So you'll watch when I release, I turn to the right, but I have a crosswind coming in from the right. And that kind of sets me up in a not great way. My airspeed gets low and I end up pulling back on the stick to make the turn sharper because I'm not turning as fast as I want to be turning. So all these things contribute to a more dangerous situation. And you'll kind of hear that in the instructor's voice when we land and get down on the ground. And so then we practice it again later, and I turn to the left into the wind, and the wind doesn't push us away from the runway, it pushes us back to the runway, helps control my airspeed, and it ends up being a nice, good landing.
Alright, here we go. Wings level.
So what happens right here is that he's putting power in nice and slow, so I didn't have any rudder authority, so I was putting in a lot of rudder, and then all of a sudden the wash from his prop comes back and hits the glider and got a whole bunch of control authority. So that's what happened there, and that caused me to kind of wiggle around back and forth, and the instructor comments about this later. I wasn't ready for it, so that was a learning experience. So here we're coming up on 200 feet, and he's going to release, and then I'm going to turn to the right. So we actually gave him about 50 extra feet. There was my airspeed. I bled it off too low, and now we're down closer to stall speed, which is not ideal. So I immediately put the nose down. Airspeed comes up pretty fast and go into a nice steep bank. Pull back on the stick. Those are conditions for stalls and spirals, not good. So here I am now, a little bit stressed out, really anxious, trying to get it centered up. But I overshot the runway, recorrecting, but I managed to get it all centered back up, and we're okay. And now I'm setting it down the runway probably a little faster than I'd like, but we're okay. It could have been better, a lot better, as I'll do in the future, but for now, we made it, and it was a good learning experience. Alright, so here we are. We're taking off for our second flight of the day, and we'll go up and practice some different maneuvers and then come back for a landing.
Much better. Yeah, I think sometimes I just have some unintended pressure on the pedals, and then I don't realize it until I'm in oscillations and stuff. All right, fly straight out, fly straight out. All right, so we're gonna nose up, develop over, get some slack lines. So I'm gonna come out to the side. So, all right, getting into his wake, so let me come back up, applying right rudder. All right, how was that?
Not bad. You can use a little bit of yaw to just make sure that it's not going to yank real hard.
Okay.
So yaw away from the magnitude you wanted right rudder.
Maneuver complete.
Right. So that way, when it comes taut, first it yaws you back, and that increases the tension before we snap it. Another way to generate slack line is from inside of it on a turn.
Bravo Yankee, fire 1 kilo, we're gonna box the weight. Okay. So go down through, I'll bring the tail above his side view mirrors, and I'll come out to the left. Now I'll align his tail wheel with the main strut, and I'll come up, then over, a little high, a little bit higher than I wanted to. There's slack lines, so let me apply rudder. Oops. Okay, that didn't, I think he corrected the slack line, so I'll just say maneuver complete. Maneuver complete. That was not how it was supposed to go, but we'll just end it there because we're 100 feet away from our released altitude anyway. So, Bravo Yankee, will you wave us off?
Ready, set, there you go.
Okay.
Like if you look right. Beautiful.
So, the side slip, I'm going to aim for these clouds and do the forward slip. So, or the, I guess it would be technically the side slip. So, wing over. It's kind of like strafing almost. There's that. Keep the nose pointed. Okay. Can increase it a little bit more. Okay. Come out of that. And then let me do a right one. So I'll keep the nose pointed at that mountain out there. Almost. It's kind of where I like it. All right. Okay, so nose over and spoilers. Whoa. Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel natural to do this. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Oh, and that's actually kind of helpful because it reduces your airspeed quite a bit.
Exactly.
Okay. So we can probably go a little bit faster. I'm gonna pull out right about here. And about
the airspeed sheds.
2,000. Front roll traffic ladder, 1 kilo, entering 45, right 28. So there's our air brakes. We're looking out. Runway looks clear. Front row traffic ladder 1 kilo, turning downwind for right 28 front row. Front row traffic ladder 1 kilo, right base for 28 front row. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. And then usually this is where I lose my airspeed for whatever reason, so very conscious of that.
Excellent. Airspeed is what's keeping us up here. So we'd like to have some. Socks look good.
Front row traffic 1 kilo right, final 28 front row.
And on final, there is no right over.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna get us center line.
So this ends up being kind of a learning landing where I wasn't very conscious of how much I had the air brakes out, and so we come up on the midfield point, which is where we need to come off the runway really fast, and I wasn't ready for that, so then I had to hit the brakes very early. Also, because I didn't have the spoilers out, it was difficult for me to control the airspeed and when I was going to settle into the ground, so that resulted in kind of a touch and go almost, and that made the flight instructor a little anxious that I would get into a PIO, pilot induced oscillation, where the nose wheel ends up hitting really hard and then you bounce back up in the air, slam back into the runway, bounce back up. I don't have that tendency though, but I certainly get his concern, and you know why I need to learn this stuff. Alright, here is the third flight, and this time is going to be another rope break, but this time instead of turning right so that the wind is blowing me away and I have a tailwind, I'm going to turn left into the wind, and I'm going to watch my airspeed, and it is going to be an amazing rope break recovery and landing.
Now I'm ready. Alright.
Something that I also just noticed is that he's purposefully set us up offset so that it would be easier to get back to the runway. Another just pointer for myself is that I need to be glancing at my airspeed all the time, and I don't do that because I get very fixated and focused on the tow plane, as I should be. But there I am, I'm maintaining 50 airspeed. We were offset just enough. I turned into the wind, so look, I'm set up extremely well to get back to the runway very early, and it ends up being a really, really good rope break. Now right here, I'm not doing a good job of using the spoilers combined with my nose angle to slow myself down. So I kind of get into this oscillation with the ground effect, and then I stall a little bit early and slam, well not slam, but plop down into the runway, which we talk about this later on the debrief, but we make it back a lot better than the first one, where we're not bleeding off the airspeed too low and getting into a condition that would set us up for a spiral. Alright, so I'm setting up for my fourth flight after that rope break. We're going to get towed back up and do some more slips and descent maneuvers.
Alright. Wings level, fly straight.
Bravo, keep spawning at runway 28, tomorrow, glider and tow.
about here. Alright, we're getting into the box. Alright, down through the wake. Down through the wake. Down through the wake. Get his tail above the mirrors, 1,000, 2,000. Out to the left. Align his rudder with the main. 1,000, 1,000. Up. Up, getting too close to his wake. Need to apply more left rudder. 1,000. Up a little high. Come back a little bit. Right there. 1,000. 1,000. Come over. Stay up above his wake. Now I gotta apply opposite. Align his tail. There we go. 1,000, 1,000. And come down. Align his tail wheel. Get it above the mirrors. 1,000, 1,000. And back over. Stay down low. And there we go. 1,000, 1,000. Back up. And up through his wake. Alright. Come on, go up. Woo!
So his wake will be a little bit higher when we're coming back up through it.
Box complete.
So the thing I want to comment about the box is that one of the most difficult portions of the box is that as you get out to the extreme corners, you have to be able to feel the aircraft through your feet and your stick and apply a little bit more opposite stick and a little bit more opposite rudder to keep yourself in that corner each time, and it's easy to drift back and forth and up and down. So at the same time, like when you're coming into the bottom corner, you're also going to have to push forward just a tiny bit, and if you're on the right side, push a little bit right aileron with a little bit of right rudder to keep yourself down and over in that corner, and vice versa. So it's a little bit complicated, but I'm getting better at it. I see improvement each time I watch it.
And there we go. Start our turn. We'll head towards the pork chop and nose over. Dive brake out. Yeah.
All
Man.
the way out. All the way. There you go. It's not squealing at you, they're not out.
Yeah, wow.
You're not even in the yellow line yet.
No.
Now let me show you something. You close them first and maintain that attitude when you bring your nose up. Then we will go fast. So don't do that.
Okay.
And that is a gotcha if you're doing that to go into final, and you're like, oh my god, I'm close to where I need to be. And you're like, okay, I'll close the brakes. Like, okay. And now you have no drag. And so you're just gonna bomb, it'll feel like you ignited the nitro boost and you're gonna fly way down the runway. So keep the brakes open until you're back on speed, or getting very close to it, and then close the brakes.
Okay. Let me put the... There we go.
Cover up your altimeter.
All right.
You still got airspeed, now you're just flying by the seat of your pants, making sure the angles look right.
Okay.
So this particular training is kind of interesting and fun because it's all based on my visual cues and how high I believe I am above the airport. Now the great thing about this is that the flight instructor behind me, he has, his altimeter is still working. So he can actually see how high we are and if we're getting into a danger zone. But this is for me to train in case ever the altimeter stops working or something along those lines. I need to test and see my abilities to visually get myself back to the airport and whether or not we're okay, based on how close the ground appears to me. And I actually liked it because I wasn't constantly glancing at the altimeter trying to figure out, well, am I on my 45 at the right height? Am I on my downwind at the right height? Am I passing my touchdown point at 1,500 feet, etc., etc., etc.? So I actually, on this go, end up doing really, really well just simply because I'm not looking at the altimeter and I'm just going off of my visual cues and how high I am and determining how much spoiler I need to put in to descend and things of that nature. So it ends up being a really good landing and operation within the pattern. So
all right, probably a little bit lower than I want to be now.
You can still make the runway, that's what matters.
Yes. So leading off just a little bit of airspeed, bringing the nose back down, maintaining airspeed 55. All right. Yeah, we can definitely make the runway. So that's good. And we do have a crosswind, so I'm being pushed away just a little bit. Terminal traffic ladder 1 kilo for right base 28 runway. Alright. Wow, I'm really high. So I'll ease the dive brakes in just a little bit.
Fix it.
Oh. Terminal traffic ladder 1 kilo. Alright. Got a little too much airspeed, so I'm going to bleed that off a little bit.
Too much than too little. Especially if you're high.
Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I got a little bit of the crab going on. We need a lot of dive brake now. Airspeed, airspeed. Dive brakes. Easing them back in. Easing them back in. Back to the center line. Alrighty. Beautiful.
So I started applying a little bit of brake now. This will be just a little bit less brake at the end. There's the crosswind, that's what pushed the nose, or the tail to the right, just brought the nose to the left.
Ah.
Nice, really nice job with the altitude. You were absolutely right that we were high, and you're absolutely right that we got a little bit low. We were at about 1,500 on the downwind, which is fine, you know. It's not what we trained for, but it's, as you saw, very easy to make a normal landing from that.
Actually,
You realized we were high, and it took you a couple seconds to activate the brakes. You're like, okay, we're high. Like, okay, well, what tool do we have? 1,000, and then they came out. So, that's fine. But just as soon as you realize you're high, add a tiny bit of brake, right?
yes. Yeah, you could definitely hear how task saturated my brain was with the with the radio calls.
You were still making them though, which is quite good. And then on landing, we had a little bit nose higher, but we still bounced a tiny bit.
Yes.
It squeaked once, and then we got another landing. So just more pitch.
Okay.
On landing.
More pitch.
Good job.
Okay, more pitch.
Higher nose.
well, that'll do it for this episode. All in all, it's pretty good. There's definitely room for a lot more improvement, but compared to where I have been, I'm getting smoother with my landings. I definitely need to work on my spoilers and the attitude and pitch of the nose on landings and controlling my airspeed. But all in all, this was a good learning experience. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you who soar, get out there and keep on soaring.